Get out! You are of no use to me.
Mama, please, I have nowhere to go. Please, Mama, please.
I don't care. You don't contribute anything to this family. Go!
She threw me out. I didn't have shoes on. She didn't give me time for shoes. And I stood on that road, on that cold, wet tar. And I thought, where does a person go when their own mother is the one who hurt them? I'll tell you where Chinwe went. And I'll tell you what she became. And I promise you, by the end of this story, you will never look at a quiet woman the same way again. If you've ever been made to feel invisible by the people who were supposed to love you most, this story is for you. Hit that like button right now, subscribe to this channel, and drop a comment. Have you ever had to choose between your peace and your family? Now, let me take you back to the beginning. In the town of Newi, in a compound on Odemba Street, there was a house where one daughter was loved and one daughter was used. Chinwe Namdi was 26, the firstborn, the one who woke before sunrise to boil water, scrub the kitchen, and fry akara before her mother's eyes even opened. Not because she was asked every morning, but because the one time she hadn't, at 17, her mother had poured the remaining cold water from the bucket over her head in front of the gateman. He had not forgotten. Her mother, Mrs. Adana Namdi, was a woman the community called formidable, a deaconess at St. Joseph's, a fabric trader, a woman who wore her Sunday smile like a second skin. But inside that compound, the smile came off. Inside that compound, there was Chioma, the younger daughter, 23, bright and favored and fully aware of her position. And there was Chinwe, who existed in the space between servant and scapegoat. Chinwe ate last at every meal. Not symbolically, literally. Whatever remained in the pot after Chioma and Mama had eaten, that was Chinwe's portion. Some nights there was enough. Some nights there was not. On those nights, Chinwe drank water and went to sleep and said nothing. Because the one time she had said something, she was 19, her mother had looked at her across the table and said, coldly, without blinking, "You eat like you contribute. You don't contribute." Chioma had laughed. A small sound, quickly swallowed, but there, and Chinwe had sat with that sentence for 7 years. You eat like you contribute. 7 years of working a teaching assistant job and handing the bulk of her salary home every month. 7 years of managing her mother's stock-supplier relationships and daily accounts without a title, without pay, without thanks. 7 years of eating last. The question was never whether she would leave. The question was what it would take to finally push her out the door. And the answer when it came was not something anyone could have predicted. It started with a slap. Chinwe was 24 the first time it happened. She had accidentally knocked a bottle of groundnut oil from the counter. The bottle didn't break, just rolled under the table. And before she could reach for it, she felt the full weight of her mother's open palm across her left cheek. The sound was enormous in the small kitchen. The gateman was outside. He heard it. He had learned not to. Chinwe's ear rang. Her eyes watered. Not from crying, just the shock of impact making the body respond without permission. She picked up the bottle, placed it on the counter, and went back to cooking. She did not touch her cheek. She did not leave the room because she had nowhere to go. That was the first time. It was not the last. Over the next 2 years, the slaps became a language, a vocabulary of frustration that her mother spoke whenever Chinwe was too slow, too quiet, too present, or not present enough. The reasons did not need to be rational. They only needed a target. And Chioma, who was never the target, learned to disappear when the atmosphere changed. She had a talent for sensing the shift and removing herself, leaving Chinwe exposed and alone, the way you leave the smallest animal at the edge of the herd. There was the night Mama's shop made a loss, and she came home and told Chinwe it was her fault, that the stock count was wrong, that she had miscounted, that she had cost the family money. And then she took Chinwe's teaching salary for that month without asking. All of it. Not a portion, all of it. Chinwe stood in the doorway of her own room and counted what she had left. 250 naira, a phone with a cracked screen, and an online digital marketing course she was paying for in installments. She sat on her bed and stared at the wall and did not sleep until 4 a.m. But here is the thing about Chinwe that neither her mother nor her sister understood. She was not surviving. She was preparing. For 2 years, Chinwe had been saving, secretly, carefully, in the way that only people who have learned that nothing is truly theirs learn to save, in small amounts, from small places, in an envelope tucked inside her old WAEC certificate booklet at the bottom of a box, under her bed. Nobody opened that box. It contained things that looked worthless: old school notebooks, a broken calculator, her late father's small Bible. The Bible. Mr. OBIO Namdi had been dead for 7 years. He was a gentle man, a civil engineer who drew building plans at the kitchen table and let Chinwe sit beside him, who called her my senior engineer as a joke that was also not a joke. When he was alive, there was balance. Not perfect, Adana had always leaned towards Chioma, but there was a counterweight, a man who saw Chinwe clearly and made sure she knew it. When he died, the counterweight was buried with him. Chinwe kept his Bible in that box because it smelled like him still, faintly, impossibly, the way some things hold on to a person long after the person is gone. And inside his Bible, she had tucked her envelope. 63,000 naira, 11 months of painfully careful saving. She had a plan, an online digital marketing program in Onitsha, 6 months, legitimate certification, enough to build a freelance career. She needed 80,000 naira total. She was 17,000 naira away. She was 17,000 naira away. On a Thursday morning, she came home from work to find Chioma sitting at the dining table, with the Bible open in front of her and the envelope in her hand. Chinwe stopped walking. Chioma looked up slowly. No guilt on her face, just that familiar expression, the one that meant the decision had already been made before Chinwe arrived. Mama needed it, Chioma said simply. The shop rent was due. Chinwe looked at the empty envelope. 11 months. Gone. She opened her mouth, and Mama appeared from the corridor, handbag already on her arm, money already inside it, and looked at Chinwe the way she looked at inconveniences. Don't start, Mama said. You live in this house. You eat in this house. That money belongs to this family. She walked past Chinwe and out the front door. Chioma followed, slipping her feet into her sandals, and said without turning around, "You should learn to be a team player." The door closed. Chinwe stood alone in the dining room, with the empty envelope, and her father's Bible, and 17,000 naira still to go, and 0 naira in her hand, and the sound of her own breathing in a house that had just stolen her again. And she made her decision. Not loud, not dramatic, quiet. The quietest, most irreversible decision of her life. I am leaving this house. She did not leave immediately. She waited 3 weeks. 3 more weeks of waking at 5, of eating last, of keeping her face neutral and her plans invisible. She called her old school friend, Neka in Onitsha. Neka, who had left Neri years ago, who had always said, "Come, just come, I have space." Neka sent her 2,000 naira for transport without being asked twice. On a Thursday night, Chinwe packed 1 bag, quietly while Chioma slept and Mama's generator hummed. She packed her certificates, her father's photograph, his Bible, her cracked screen phone, and 1 week's worth of clothes. She stood at her bedroom door, looked at the room she had slept in for 26 years, the ceiling she had stared at through 1,000 sleepless nights, the window through which other people's lives moved past. She breathed, and she walked out. She was at the front door when her mother's voice came from the corridor. "Where are you going with that bag?" Chinwe turned around.
I'm leaving, Mama. The silence lasted 2 full seconds. And then, Adana's face did something Chinwe had not expected. It did not soften. It hardened. As if the announcement confirmed something she had always suspected. As if Chinwe leaving was further proof of Chinwe's failure to be what she was supposed to be. Leaving, Mama repeated. To go where? To do what? You think the world outside this gate is waiting for you? Chinwe, Mama, you are ungrateful after everything this family has done for you. And that word, ungrateful, after the slaps, after the empty envelope, after 7 years of eating last and working unpaid and being someone's shadow, that word cracked something open in Chinwe. What has this family done for me, Mama? She said. Her voice was quiet, but her hands were shaking. Tell me, what has this family done for me? Chioma appeared in the corridor now, wakened by voices, standing in the doorway of her room, watching. Mama's eyes went cold. Get out, she said. If you want to go, then go. Don't stand in my doorway asking foolish questions. Get out of my house. Chinwe, I said get out. And she grabbed Chinwe's bag, grabbed it from her shoulder, and opened the front door and threw it outside, into the dark, into the road. Chinwe looked at her mother. For one long moment, she searched that face, searched it the way she had searched it her entire life for something soft, something that said, I don't mean it, I'm afraid, I love you and I don't know how to say it. There was nothing, just the cold, flat eyes of a woman who had made her choice a long time ago. Chinwe stepped outside. The door slammed behind her. She didn't have shoes on. She hadn't had time for shoes. She stood on that cold, wet tar in the dark, her bag in the gutter, the compound gate still open behind her, and she felt it, the full, crushing weight of it, not just tonight, but all of it. All 26 years, every meal she ate last, every slap, every salary taken, every night she lay awake telling herself it will get better, it will change, she will see you eventually. She pressed her hand over her mouth and she wept, standing barefoot in the road at 11:40 at night with no shoes and one bag and nowhere to be until morning. She wept. And then, and this is the part that matters, she stopped. She wiped her face with the back of her hand. She picked up her bag. She found her slippers inside it, packed because she had been planning after all, and she put them on, and she walked to the bus park. She did not look back. Onitsha did not welcome her. It received her the way a city receives everyone, without sentiment, without ceremony, without caring whether she was ready. Neka's apartment was 1 room and a parlor in Inland Town. Chinwe slept on a full mattress on the floor for 4 months and was grateful for it every single night. She had 31,000 naira left in the world. She spent 0 of it on comfort. She found a data entry job the second week, 5,000 naira a week, cash. It was not enough. She took a second job, evening shift at a business center near the market, operating the photocopy machine and printing documents for people until 9 in the evening. She ate once a day for the first 3 months, not by choice, by budget. She was building her online presence at the same time, studying free digital marketing resources at midnight on Neka's Wi-Fi, creating sample campaigns for fictitious brands, building a portfolio from nothing. She submitted pitches to 12 small businesses in Onitsha before one said yes. A pepper soup restaurant that needed social media management. They paid her 8,000 naira monthly. She treated that account like it was a multinational. Within 2 months, that restaurant Instagram had grown from 200 followers to 11,000.
Customers were coming specifically because they had seen the page. The owner referred her to his cousin who owned a logistics company. That cousin referred her to 3 others. Within 18 months, Chinwe had 5 steady clients, a laptop, and a small office space she shared with 2 other young entrepreneurs in Onitsha's commercial district. She named her business Namdi Digital, her father's name, pressed into everything she was building, like a foundation invisible beneath the structure. But in Nyewi, something was already beginning to collapse. Mrs. Adana's fabric business began failing within 4 months of Chinwe's departure. Nobody announced it. It simply happened, the way buildings fail when the underground structure is removed, quietly, then all at once. The stock counts went wrong. Suppliers started calling about unpaid balances Chinwe had always managed quietly. A customer returned a full bale of fabric that had been sold from the wrong batch, a mix-up Chinwe had never made once in 7 years. Adana hired a shop girl. The shop girl stole from the till 14,000 naira over 6 weeks before Adana noticed. Chioma tried to help. She was not built for it. Her talent was charm, and charm does not do stock reconciliation. She lasted 3 weeks before the argument between her and her mother became daily. And then Chioma met Ekene, a man with a big car, a bigger smile, and a gambling problem he kept hidden behind both. She married him in a wedding that cost more than the family had and moved to Asaba. And Adana was alone. The roof began to reek. The generator, the one Chinwe had warned about for 2 years, finally failed completely during the rainy season. 2 rooms flooded. Stored shop goods worth 60,000 naira were destroyed. There was no insurance. There was no emergency fund. There was nothing. By the time Chioma came back from Asaba 18 months later, marriage broken, baby on her hip, pride in pieces, the house on Udemba Street looked like a place that had been forgotten. Peeling walls, rusty gate, the flower pot at the entrance, long dead. Mother and daughter sat together in the diminished house and felt the presence of the one who was not there. They did not say her name, but they both knew. It was a Sunday evening, September. Mrs. Adana was in the parlor watching a business program on AIT, one of the few channels the old antenna still pulled clearly. Chioma was in the back room putting the baby to sleep. The program was profiling young entrepreneurs from the southeast. Adana was barely watching. She was thinking about the shop, about the rent notice that had come that morning, about how she would tell Chioma. And then the screen showed a face. A woman in a dark green blazer, sitting in a clean modern office, speaking calmly into a camera. In Namdi Digital, we believe that small businesses in this region have the same right to a powerful brand identity as any company in Lagos. We've worked with over 40 clients in the past 2 years and we're just getting started. Adana's hand stopped moving. Her eyes went to the name at the bottom of the screen. Chinwe Namdi, founder, Namdi Digital, Onitsha. She stared. The camera pulled back to show the office behind Chinwe, small but professional, staff visible at desks in the background, the company logo clean and bold on the wall. Chinwe was speaking again. I started with nothing, literally nothing, and I think that's important for young people to know, that the starting point doesn't determine the destination. Adana's cup of tea was in her hand. She did not notice it tilting. The tea spilled onto her wrapper, hot, then quickly cooling, and she did not move, did not react. She sat and stared at the television long after the segment ended, long after the program moved on to the next story. Chioma walked in from the corridor, saw her mother's face. "Mama, what happened? You spilled?" "I saw Chinwe," Adana said. The words came out flat, stripped of everything. Chioma went very still. On television, Adana continued. Her voice was strange, not sad exactly, something deeper than sad, something that had no clean name. She has a business in Onitsha. She has staff on a television. Chioma sat down slowly. The baby monitor crackled softly from the back room, and the 2 women sat in the parlor of their failing house in the blue light of a television that had just shown them what they had thrown away, in the silence of people who have finally run out of excuses.
3 weeks after that television program, on a Wednesday morning, a black SUV with Lagos plates parked on Udemba Street. The neighbors noticed immediately. Mama Obiagili from across the road was the first outside, the way she always was for anything worth watching. She shaded her eyes against the morning sun. The driver came around and opened the door, and Chinwe stepped out.
She looked exactly like herself. That was the thing that would stay with people afterward. She hadn't become someone else. She was wearing a simple burgundy blouse, dark trousers, flat shoes. Her father's watch on her left wrist. But something was different. The way she stood, the way she took in the street, unhurried, steady, like someone who has already decided the terms of every conversation they are about to have. Mama Obiageli's hand went to her chest. Chinwe, is this you? It's me, Mama Obiageli. Inside the house, Chioma was at the window. She saw her sister and her legs simply stopped working correctly. She sat down on the floor right there, the baby startled in her arms, and her eyes filled immediately, violently with tears she had been storing for 2 years without knowing it. Chinwe walked through the gate, past the dead flower pots, through the front door, into the parlor, where her mother was sitting. Mrs. Adana Namdi looked at her firstborn daughter, and something happened in her face that Chinwe had never seen there before, not in 26 years. She looked afraid, not of Chinwe, afraid of herself, of what she had done, of what was sitting in this room between them now, heavy and real and no longer avoidable. Chinwe, she said, just the name, like a confession. Chinwe looked at her mother. She had rehearsed this moment many times, on the drive from Onitsha, in the weeks before, in the dark of her own office after everyone went home. She had rehearsed anger, rehearsed dignity, rehearsed the precise cutting things she could say that would land exactly where they would hurt most. But standing here now, looking at this woman, older, smaller, frightened, Chinwe felt something she had not expected. Not pity, not love, not yet, just clarity. She knew exactly what she wanted, and she knew exactly what it would cost both of them to get it. She sat down. Mama, I'm going to say this once, and I need you to hear all of it before you speak. Adana nodded, barely. I have a business. We are growing. I have a contract coming that will involve community outreach coordinators in Newi, paid positions, trained from scratch. I want to offer that to Chioma. Chioma appeared in the doorway. Chinwe did not look at her yet. I will repair this house. Roof, walls, generator, all of it. I will set up a health plan for your treatment, Mama. I have seen the hospital receipts. I know what you owe. The room was absolutely silent. But I have one condition. She looked at her mother, then at her sister. This Sunday, St. Joseph's, the last Sunday testimony service, you will both stand up in front of this community, in front of every person who watched me grow up in this house and never knew what was happening inside it. And you will tell the truth. Not a church testimony, not God has taught me language. The truth. What you did, how long, the night of the gate, the slaps, the money, all of it, plainly, publicly, in front of witnesses. That is my condition. It is not negotiable, and it is not about punishment. She leaned forward slightly. It is about the young girls in that church who are living what I lived right now, today, in their own homes. And they need to know, from you, from your mouths, that what happened to me was wrong. Not my fault, not my failure, wrong. I'll give you until Friday. She stood, picked up her bag, and walked out. They came. Both of them. Friday evening, Chioma called. Saturday morning, Adana called. No long speeches on the phone. Just, we will come. St. Joseph's on the last Sunday of the month was full, the way it always was. Asoke and white lace, and children in stiff shoes, and incense lifting toward the high ceiling. The priest opened the floor for testimonies when Adana arose. 200 people felt the change in the room when they saw her stand. The deaconess moving toward the microphone on a day when she had not been scheduled to speak. She stood at the front. She did not look at notes. She did not clear her throat. She looked at the congregation, and her voice, when it came, was not the church voice, not the Sunday smile voice. It was the voice of someone who had finally stopped performing. I have 2 daughters. For most of their lives, I treated one of them as less than human. I slapped her. I took her money. I let her go hungry in my own house. And the night she tried to live with dignity, I threw her out without shoes. I told her she was nothing to me. That was the biggest lie I have ever told, because she was everything, and I was too broken and too proud to say it. 3 women in the congregation were crying silently, the kind of crying that means, this is my story too. Adana sat down. Chioma stood. Her voice shook from the first word, but she did not sit back down. I helped. I want to say that clearly. I am the one who found her savings and brought it to my mother. I am the one who said things that made it worse. I let myself be the favorite, and I used it like a weapon. My sister built a life that I helped try to destroy, and she still came back, not for revenge, for truth. I don't deserve what she's offering me, but I will spend the rest of my life being worthy of it. She sat. 200 heads turned toward the 5th row, toward Chinwe. She did not stand, did not speak. She sat in the morning light coming through the high windows with her father's watch on her wrist, and she looked at her mother and her sister, and she nodded once, slowly, the way you close a chapter. The house was repaired by February. Chioma started work the following month. She was not given special treatment. She started at the bottom and worked her way up with the discipline of someone who finally understood what work actually cost. She was good, genuinely good. She had always had the gift. She had just finally found the right use for it. Adana's health was managed consistently by someone who made sure the bills were paid before they became emergencies. Chinwe did not move back to Newi. She returned to her office in Onitsha, to her team, to the work that had saved her life by demanding everything from her. She kept her father's watch. She never removed it. People asked her in interviews the same question, different forms, over and over. Why did you go back? You had built everything alone. Why not just leave them behind? And Chinwe's answer was always the same. Simple, unshakable. Because I refused to let what they did to me be the end of the story. I wanted to write the ending myself. And I wanted every girl who grew up eating last and sleeping last and mattering last to see that you can survive it. You can build something from it. And one day, on your terms, in your time, you can walk back through that gate whole. Chinwe did not win because she got revenge. She won the night she put on her slippers in that dark road and started walking. Everything after, the business, the return, the Sunday, was just her showing the world what that walk was worth. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of someone or of yourself, like this video right now. Share it with someone who needs to hear it today, and drop a comment. I want to know, what was the moment that hit you hardest? If you're new here, please subscribe to African Folktale with Buchi. This is what we do. Human stories, real pain, real power. You were never nothing. They were just never qualified to measure you. Till next time, stay blessed.